Happy Pride Month. I'm Anna Alejo, producer here at CBS News Colorado, and the proud mom of a gay daughter. Also honored to work in a newsroom that strived over many decades to be reflective of our community. It's my pleasure to introduce key members of the CBS Colorado team. You may already know reporter and assignment editor Joel Hillen. Jeff Gurney is our assistant news director. Drew Seidner is creative services director. Aaron Romick produces newscasts here, as does our newest teammate Josh Behringer. Thanks all of you for taking part today.
Thank you. Of course.
And happy Pride Month.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Pride Month.
Yeah. So can we start by speaking generally about your experience with Pride over the years? The movement obviously has evolved. The commemoration. What's been your experience?
It's changed over the years, right? I mean, when I first came out, it was the best weekend of the year, the best weekend of the summer, and it was the only time that I could actually be myself, right? And now it's more of a bigger community. The entire community of Denver gets involved, so it's really changed a whole lot.
Exactly, yeah.
And I would agree with that. I grew up here in Denver. I don't remember hearing much about it when I was growing up, and then I moved away, worked at a couple different markets, came back, and the first year went, and I was like, wow, this is such a huge community here. Everyone was so nice, and what I think one of the great things about it is all the families that come down with, all kinds of couples with their kids, and everyone's just there to celebrate, and it's great.
I watched longingly at Pride for many years because I spent 35 years as a deeply closeted man. And I just remember looking out and looking at these experiences that everyone was having. And when I finally did come out in 2017, it was so great to be able to take my kids out to that. That's what, to Aaron's point, that I could take my kids, that this could be something we could experience together. And it was a great lesson in just being authentic and living authentically, which was just wonderful to be able to share that with my kids. What greater lesson could I give them who, my son is he's 16 years old and he's just a straight teenage boy, but he loves Pride every year.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I grew up in South Florida, which is practically just gay everywhere. Yeah. South Florida in particular, let me just emphasize that. But working in news, it's taken me to a number of other markets that are not as open and queer and as gay friendly. But it's been amazing to see just over the years how even some of those areas are now starting to have more Pride events and people saying, we're here, no matter what you say about us, we're gonna be here. We're here, we're queer, we're happy, we're proud, we're out.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I mean, it never, as a straight man, it never really applied to me. I'm like, oh, and it's great that they, have these Pride events, but now as a, as a father of a gay daughter, it's truly, it is for allies, it's for families.
And there's been such an evolution over these years. At the same time right now, we're seeing a lot of division. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security reports that threats of violence against the LGBT community are on the rise. Of course, we've had the Pulse tragedy, the Club Q tragedy. What goes through your mind?
Gosh, I mean, I knew someone who died in Pulse, and so when Club Q happened, it was like it's getting closer, right? And now you think of every time something like that happens, it's like it's getting closer to us, and it's getting closer, and it really affects people really deeply when they see an image of themselves hurting so much, right? So we really need to be aware of that, and it needs to be a teaching moment as well as just a reminder for the community.
Overwhelming, still months later, you're still seeing it with the Pride event last weekend and the tribute to the heroes who helped stop that situation when it was going on. And so any community healing from all sides is just overwhelming, I think.
And we live in a state where we have an openly gay governor, and you think that this would be a safe place to go to these centers of authenticity where we can be ourselves in a very safe way. But it's a reminder that we have to look around, we have to be aware, because there are some people that see that authenticity and they don't like it.
It was really hard, sending my daughter off to college when she was coming into her, sexuality. And, you always, as a father, you want to, be there to protect them. And, you're seeing that, even in your own backyard, that's a complete illusion. So you just, trust that they've got good friends and make good decisions and just kind of keep their head on a swivel so they're, have some situational awareness, which I hate that they have to have that. which makes my job as a dad and an ally that much more important.
Right.
And I want to kind of just highlight some of the progress. I mean, we talk about Club Q, we talk about Pulse, these large events where we know this was wrong. But even just years before that, if someone had done something toward a member of the LGBTQ plus community, no one would have batted an eye. I mean, going back to Matthew Shepard, just one state north of us in Wyoming. Nowadays we say that was wrong, but back then I was kind of like, you know. But now we're at the point where the community recognizes this is wrong. We can stand up and we can tell these people, like, it's wrong, like, obviously.
Yeah. So we do share the experience of being parents. Do you have anything that you've learned from your journey? And Joel, you obviously from your journey as well.
Well, weirdly, my daughter was in the Laramie Project in high school, and that was, one of the first times I remember like seeing her like as this fully realized, individual who had, this really specific viewpoint, and but also shared this community. I think what I learned from her coming out and being authentic to her mom and me and our whole family was to not talk so much, but to listen more, and understand that this is a kind of a process that we're going through together of figuring out what this relationship is now and how it's going to evolve and change, and understanding that we're going to make mistakes along the way. We're gonna stumble a little bit, but we're good. But we are gonna pick each other up and keep moving forward together.
I think part of my kids were part of my realization of I need to come out, because I was having conversations with my kid. My son, a little nerdy, loves trains and everything. And I remember, he's like, should I disguise this part of me? And as a parent, you're like, I want you to be you. I want you to show the world you. I love you. And that's what I want you to share with the world. And my daughter was a little bit of, I guess, what would be considered a tomboy. She loved dinosaurs, and she didn't like the girly stuff, even though I tried to put cute dresses on her. And I mourned the loss of that. But I wanted her to show up in the world authentically. And I realized to myself, like, I want this for my kids. I should have this I need to show them this by living authentically myself.
What would be your hope for future Pride Months as the nation tries to live up to the ideals and human rights, dignity for all?
I think that living your true self, I think I'm not a parent, but I would say being a parent, you want the best thing for your child, right? And so I think that should be celebrated whether it's Pride Month or not. One day, hopefully, we won't need a Pride Month, and we can all just celebrate everyone for who they are and who they love and who they, their experiences and how well they do and whatever they excel at, and just celebrate them.
Yeah, Dr. King famously said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Is that how you see the journey, or are you more pessimistic, especially given the division right now?
I mean, that's the hope, right? I mean, certainly here, we're lucky to live in a state where we are more open and inclusive. I think about those people that are live in those areas where not only is it not okay to be who they are, but they're kind of being pushed back into the shadows. And I think we all need to help them understand that they're sometimes it's hard, but there are people out here that love you and accept you, and if you need a place to go, Colorado's a great place to be.
Yeah, especially the trans community right now.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great example.
Yeah.
And I would say it goes back to kind of the historic cycle. I mean, currently the focus is on the LGBTQ plus community, really the trans portion of it. But historically, we've gone through this cycle with other groups, women, African Americans,
right,
other minority groups. And I mean, not that everything is equal at this point in time, but we're going to get there as well with this group. And it might not be in any of our generations.
Yeah.
It might still be a few generations down the road.
And especially even just location. Like when I first moved here, people at my old workplace were, why would you want to move to the hate state? And now look at Colorado and look at Florida. So it's based on the region too.
Great.
So there is hope there.
And to Jeff's point, I think that pride can be for everyone, right? And
it should be.
And we want, just like my daughter, who's likely straight as well, she is a little bit of a tomboy. So maybe, you know, on the gender expression, you express yourself differently. I hope you find your color in the rainbow when we fly these flags or when we show these graphics behind us, that even straight people can find themselves in that and say, I can show up authentically because these people show up authentically and it was really difficult for them. Why is it so hard for me to say, you know what, I don't like doing these things, I enjoy doing these things, and it's just who I am.
Well, and I really love what you said about just being on guard of who is being made to feel other.
Yeah.
You know, that we have to stand up and defend those, those groups of people and make them feel like that they've got a place to be where they can be themselves.
Even if we don't understand.
Right.
Not our job.
Not our job.
And the table should be very inclusive.
Yeah.
But be curious about those. That's what I've loved about being a reporter and a journalist is I go, boy, I wouldn't think that way, but I'm curious and I'm ready to ask them a lot of questions. And so just come and ask questions. There's very few people in the LGBTQ community that aren't ready to talk about their experience and help you understand if you're willing to listen.
Mm-hmm. Important points. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. And you can see this interview and all our Pride coverage at CBS News Colorado. Thanks so much for joining us.